Hello everybody, this is Game Master Karakin, and I am here with a new series based on fiction from my own universe. This new series will be entitled Force Echo War, and it's based off of a book series that I've been writing for quite a few years now. Most of it is an advertisement for my books, which are hopefully going to come out in the next couple of years, but also it's for a game series that I would eventually like to do based on the world from the books. Whether that turns into a miniatures game or a RTS depends on how much of a budget I will have eventually. But here I would like to start with a short primer. Earth, Parallel Universe, year 2040. The world is poised on the brink of war on a terrible scale. A new pentapolar world has risen, balanced unevenly between the new G4, the EU, India, the Red Bloc, and a powerful resurgent international caliphate of Islamic states, or ISIS. A Caesar has risen to the top of American politics, and armed with the newest and potent particle weapons, a semi-isolationist U.S. state is looking for a way to become totally independent from the world, and they would find it in Project Translation through a mysterious professor, codenamed Blue Lake. Project Translation, a brainchild of General Avery Yao of the United States Air Force, Black Operations Division, was a scheme that, if pulled off, would change the balance of power on the world stage forever. But how did it get to this? Why is any of this necessary? 1942. A group of 3 friends set to inherit their family's fortune enlist in the armed forces to fight for peace in Europe and come out of the war with a mission. They established 3 corporations in the ensuing years: Morgan Manufacturing Conglomerate, Lehman Euro Banking Conglomerate, and Konohara Computing Corporation, and vowed to ensure that never again will their mother countries be so unprepared for a conflict. Using special connections made in the military, these businessmen take over large portions of weapon development and manufacturing, and by the end of the Korean War have set up 2 subsidiaries, Seoul Microelectronics and Ahsoka Dynamics Limited. The influence of these corporations causes many events in subsequent history to change, including victory in the Vietnam War, the inclusion of India in the British Commonwealth, and an early fall of the Soviet government in the late 80s. Such was their impact on the economies of the day that USA and its closest allies managed to maintain most of their power through the end of the Cold War. This was even to the point that, with the advent of populist presidents in American politics in the 2000s, much of the old world began to fear a true American hegemony. To prevent this, a cabal of European and Russian black operations groups collaborated to provide the target of the war in Afghanistan with nuclear capabilities in order to destabilize American control over the petrodollar. When the Trade Center attack was carried out, the United States had a real justification to attack when small tactical devices were used against garrison forces. In the 2010s, a low-powered cobalt device is set off in Times Square, wiping most of New York and its citizens off the face of the world. The device, provided by black operations agencies in Europe in a false flag attack implicating ISIS, detonated, and over the next 10 years killed 25 million people. Initial investigation implicated terrorist groups, and the USA entered total wartime spending and declared war on ISIS, declaring that it would wipe it from existence. ISIS took credit for this attack, and merging with several other groups and those hidden in other countries, formed the International Caliphate of Islamic States. The ICIS, buoyed by the attack, swelled and overwhelmed the entire Middle East with the exception of Israel and Egypt, and in a shocking upset overthrew the government of Sweden and pronounced the Emirate of Swedenistan. Over the next few years, USA would send intervention forces to Sweden, the Middle East, and many other places around the globe where the ICIS would rise and struggle to contain the threat, and many other places across the globe where the ICIS would begin to rise and struggle to contain the threat. As time wore on, evidence surfaced of weapons being supplied to the ICIS by China, and the USA defaulted on their debts owed to them, almost causing a Third World War. In 2028, incontrovertible evidence is found implicating the Euro Cabal in 2019 attack, and for a moment the world balances on a knife edge as most of the citizens of the United States call out for war with Europe, halted only by the intervention of one-term President Phil Collins. The United States leaves NATO and defaults on debts owed to European countries. In early 2029, an economically devastated Europe and China threaten war over the payment of debts owed, and the United States and its allies in the new G4 bloc perpetrate the Night of Ions, a demonstration of power from the new ion cannon devices deployed over major cities in the affronting nations. Numerous satellites from all involved nations are destroyed, and missiles in their secret silos are hit with the terrible force of the ion cannons. The affronting nations back down, but any chance at a recovery from this position is destroyed. In 2032, in a mothballed facility somewhere in the United States, General Avery Yao begins his work on the project translation. 8 years later, Special Operations Task Force Echo Translation Ops Squad 9 enters the machine in the first test trip and disappears. The future of this world, careening towards total war, rests on the soldiers of these former Delta operators, and what they find on the other side of the event horizon. At the end here, I would like to thank everyone for listening. I hope to get these books out in the next couple of years, but my main problem is that I do not have a very substantial bank account at the moment. So I am doing my best to self-edit and take things one day at a time. Whether or not there's going to be substantial interest in this, I would like to make more videos in this topic, simply because I enjoy talking about my series, and I haven't had very many people with which to share a lot of the details. So I hope you will indulge me, and I will tell you more about this series. This does not mean that I'm going to stop talking about Command & Conquer War. In fact, I plan on adding different universes to this. Most recently, I've been reading the John Carter of Mars books, and I actually think that that could make a very interesting RTS game, based on a lot of the stuff that I'm finding in the books. For Pulp Fiction, it is actually very in-depth, and I like it quite a bit. In addition to that, I would like to make some content, some experimental content, where I go into details about various power scaling or versus situations, because I have seen quite a bit of Death Battle, and I have quite a few problems with the way that they do that. I don't know if that's going to be a staple of things going on, but I'd like to make a couple of videos about that. In the meantime, I appreciate everybody who listened, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.